What's going on, everybody? Trev Wilson here. Welcome back to the Bourbon Wrench. Today, 2022 is coming to an end. You know what that means? A list. A list of my top 10 whiskeys of 2022. Now, we have a lot of bottles to get through and talk about, so we just need to cut out all the fluff. Before we get into the list, we have some ground rules to discuss. First and foremost, I am not going to be ranking these. This isn't a number 1 to number 10. This is just a generalized list of bottles that were released in 2022 that I really like. Now, I will do a future blind video or live stream where I will find out which one is my favorite, but as far as this list goes, we're not going to talk about, this one beats this one, just all of the ones I've really liked this year. 2, I'm just a dude. This is the Bourbon Wrench. I'm small time, okay? I don't get access to a lot of stuff, so my list, it's what I got. We get what we get, we got what we got, that's what we have to work with. So if your favorite bottle of 2022 is not on my list, pretty good chances it's because I don't have it. So I'm sorry. That or your taste buds are wrong. So let's just get right into it. We have a lot of bottles on the table, so stick around after we get through the 10 bottles that I would say made my list. I have a little honorable mention at the end where we cover a couple of other bottles, bottles that maybe made other lists, that Jack Daniel's bonded. We'll talk a little more about that. Stick around to the end of the video. Make sure to check the honorable mention. So let's get right into it. The first bottle on my list, come on. It's the Bourbon Wrench channel. Maker's Mark's got to be on there. The BRT 01, love it. Part of me was like, yeah, I should just throw both of the BRTs on there, but I wanted to narrow it down. If I had to pick one, I think there was a clear winner in my palate, and it was the BRT 01. I think it stood out a little bit. It was more unique in my opinion versus the 2. Not to say the 2 wasn't bad. I really love it, but I think this one aligns with my palate a little more on the vanilla side of things, unlike the 2, which is more of the chocolatey side of things. So I guess it really depends on the person and their palate. This one aligns with my palate. Maker's Mark sticking to the trend of putting out really good wood finishing stuff, so absolutely love this bottle. Moving on to the next bottle, a new guy to the block, Smoke Wagon Uncut the Younger. I think this was a perfect release in terms of this is kind of what the market needed, just another barrel proof option that didn't cost a fortune. This is more in the budget, $40 range, barrel proof stuff. That's awesome. Give us more of that. That's what I want. But not only did they do that, they delivered a really delicious product in line with their other products. Not saying this is as good as, a Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered, but it has that DNA. You can tell that's what it is, and it fits a perfect role. It fits in the puzzle perfectly, so absolutely love this release. A little bit harder to come by because they're not in every state. In the states they are in, they've been kind of harder to get, but I've been seeing them more and more. So I'm hopeful that you will see more of this. This will expand and more states will get it. Because this release is really good. So, sticking to the MGP trend, we have 2 bottles from the same distillery up next. That's a big deal. Someone's killing it. And that someone is Doc Swinson's. The first bottle we're going to be talking about is the Doc Swinson's Alter Ego Cask Strength. This was a limited release that they put out this year, and oh my gosh, I love this bottle. I am a huge lover of the regular Alter Ego, so when they said the cask strength was coming out, I had to get it. And this bottle, for my palate, was one of those that I went to the store, got it, came home, cracked it, and immediately had to go back and get another bottle. I loved it so much. I think this is just a perfect example of sourced bourbon done right. The bourbon itself is great, the finish is great. It's just a perfect mix of, hey, we know how to do a finished bourbon. And speaking of Doc Swinson and how they know how to finish stuff, the next bottle on the list is the Doc Swinson's Exploratory Cask. This is the Moscatel finish. Now I saw on Fred Minnick's list, one of the Exploratory Casks placed really high. And it's no shocker to me because of how good this one is. The catch to this is Doc Swinson's, for one, is only in X amount of states, and of those states, each of these exploratory casks they do, you know, each state only gets a certain finish. So the port, the Moscatel, all of these different finishes go to different states. So just kind of depends on where you're at. But that being said, if you are in one of those states, these are things to keep an eye out for. Or if you've never tried them before, they're totally worth trying. Like, I didn't even know what Moscatel was until this bottle, and it has honestly blown me away how different, how unique it is. This bottle is so honey, apricot. It's just flavors that I'm not used to getting, and it was seriously a breath of fresh air. You know, I'm not saying drinking bourbon gets boring, but when you have the same things all the time and then something like this drops, it's like, what is that? Now, Doc Swinson's are coming out with so many different finishes, a part of this exploratory cask. They sent me samples of pretty much everything that they're actively dropping or going to be dropping in 2023. So I'm gonna do a video covering those. So if you're in one of those states that one of those finishes go to, you know what to look out for, you know what to kind of expect. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead, subscribe. All right, let's move on to the next bottle. We got one more bourbon, and then we'll get into a couple ryes, and then we're gonna move into 3 heavy hitter bottles that I think might take the cake in my top list. So the next bottle, we're gonna go with good old Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. This one is the C922, and I really struggled. I really didn't know which one to put here, because the B522 this year, I really wasn't that oohed and awed when I fresh cracked it, but man, has that thing really opened up into something incredible. So I was really struggling. I thoroughly enjoy the C batch. I'll put it on here. I'm curious though to see what people think. So leave a comment. C versus B this year. I'm sure it's gonna be pretty divisive. But, you know, not a whole lot to say about this bottle other than I think it's just another great release. I mean, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof in itself is just such a great value. It's a 12-year-old barrel proof bourbon that's delicious. So it's hard to argue them. I'm always looking forward to them. Just another great release from them guys. All right, let's move on to the next 2 bottles, which are my 2 ryes of the year. And yeah, Bourbon Wrench and the rye, we're getting there. First on my list is a Midwinter Night's Dram, the Encore. I'm gonna go with the Encore. 2 reasons. One, because between the 2, you know, I didn't want to put both of them. I could. The Act 10 this year I think is really good, but this bottle existing and the next bottle is why I kept it off the list. The Encore, it was a distillery only release, so not many people had the chance of getting it. I have great friends who smuggle things out for me. Janelle. This bottle is delicious to me. I think the white port really makes it unique. It makes it stand out from the typical midwinters, and I think that's what I really liked about it. What, you know, draws me to it. It feels like something totally different, something on its own. I like what they did with the updated label. They raised the proof a little bit. I just think it's a solid rye. Solid finished rye, a unique finished rye. So all that being said, had to put it on the list. And that moves on to the bottle that I guess dethroned the Midwinter Night's Dram Act 10. Is a bottle maybe not many of you have known about or heard about, the Penelope Tokai Cask Finished. This bottle could be described as the poor man's Midwinter Night's Dram, just because it's cheaper. It was like $70, but it tastes pretty similar. Like, this could be a sibling of a Midwinter Night's Dram. And some people, it could be, you know, the sibling that's the star quarterback in a football team, or it could be the other guy who is a Beethoven. Really just whatever floats your boat. I had no idea what Tokai was. I just bought it because I love what Penelope does. They put out a lot of unique and fun, interesting things. This took me aback. I was like, what is that? That is really good. That is dessert deliciousness. Tokai is like a port or something. It's a dessert wine, so it's very sweet, very dark, but it mixes with the rye so well. It is like a dessert pour. It's just absolutely delicious. I feel like if you like or love a Midwinter Nights Dram, I think this is in your wheelhouse. If you can't get a Midwinter Nights Dram and you want to try something like what it tastes like, I think this just kind of gives you an idea of that. Either way, they're really good. This is really good. They're both really good. So this one though, I'm gonna put it on the list for that. It's new. It's trying something weird like Tokai. Fun, delicious. So I know I said we will save the honorable mentions for the last, but we got 3 heavy hitters. And I think while we go through this, you need to go ahead, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and go start commenting what you think of the list so far. So let's get into the honorable mentions before we get into presumably maybe my top 3 of the year. First and foremost, let's get the elephant out of the room, the Jack Daniel's Bonded. This made number 1 in certain lists. I made a video talking about it, but I'm gonna talk about it a little more. I'm giving it an honorable mention because it is good. It does what it does really well, and what that is provide a really good, budget, available, daily sipping bourbon in the Jack Daniel's portfolio, okay? Yeah, that's great. That's what we want. This was needed in the market. That being said, I have to not only take that into account, but how it tastes. Will this compete against anything else on this list? As far as taste goes, probably not. So that being said, it's not top whiskey of the year. This is, I'm glad this exists list of the year. So another bottle, honorable mention, Larceny Barrel Proof. This is the B522. I don't think this would win against anything on this list, but I think this year's Larceny Barrel Proof releases have been really good. There were some absolutely atrocious ones in the past. I feel like this year just ramped things up. Really, really good releases. Makes me hopeful. Next year, keep it up. Absolutely love it. I find myself reaching for this a lot, so I had to give a little praise to him. I'm glad. And the last honorable mention is the Barrel Batch 33. I didn't know what to expect with this bottle. This is a little hitter. This is a really good batch that they put out this year. I think it's so orange citrus, orange peel. It's like an old-fashioned bourbon. It's made for it. Exceptional batch. Again, I don't know if I would pick it as my favorite, but for what it is, kind of blew my mind. I was like, hey, you guys are doing good stuff over there. So if you are a barrel fan and you collect the different batches and whatnot, I can't tell you what batch 27 versus 30 tastes like, but batch 33, really good. All right, let's get into the final 3 bottles on my list. These guys could very well be my top whiskey of the year, when we do some sort of blind. First on the list here, Lucky 7. This is the Proprietor 14-year-old. Holy moly. This stuff's freaking delicious. It's like, to me, the perfect balance of all of the oak, but all of the other complex bourbon flavors. I think the majority of people who might not like 16, 18-year-old bourbon, they're like, that's too much oak, whatever. I think this is a nice balance of, I'm gonna give you all of it in the right amount. It's spicy, it's oaky, it's sweet, it's everything. This is another one I had no idea what to expect, and it blew me away. So from the moment I poured this, I knew that it was gonna make my list of the year. Seriously, it was that profound of just being like, this is awesome, I love it. So that one's easy. Let's move on to the next one, which is another aged bourbon, the Calumet 16-year. Now, again, I think this one's got a little more into the oak territory, which I personally love, but this is one that I got it, I started drinking it, and before long, I'm like, I am gonna need another bottle of that because I'm going through it too quickly. So I went and got another one. I know some people say they like the 15 better. To me, 16, this one is where my palate aligns. It's what I want out of the Calumet. It's just so good. You're getting the oak, you're getting the cherry, you're getting Barton goodness. It's just, And then finally, the last bottle on the list, the oldest of them all, the Knob Creek 18. Again, friends of mine procured this for me because my friends are amazing, James, I love you. And I can't get them. So the Knob Creek 18, I've heard such great things about it. I was so excited, and this did not disappoint whatsoever. I'm a huge Knob Creek fan. I love the 100 proof. The single barrels are amazing. The store picks are amazing. That 12 year is amazing. Why would I not want an 18-year-old Knob Creek? It gives you all of that Knob Creek goodness, that super charred barrel Knob Creek, and it elevates the oak that I love. It's phenomenal. And comes in a box. Now, I'm super curious. You know, these 3 bottles here at the end, I'm really curious how these would rank amongst each other in a blind. Shoot, I want to blind all of these just to see if an outlier can sneak in there, but these 3 have really stood out to me as just being something unique and special that I'm really happy that I have them. So, you know, it doesn't matter which one wins. What matters is that I got all of them and I can enjoy them. But it would be fun to kind of blind these and see what they're like as well as the other bottles. So there we have it, guys. That is my list of 2022, the top bourbons and a couple rye of 2022. Go ahead, let me know what you think of my list. Have these bottles made your list? And if they did, where would you put them? Thank you guys for watching. 2022 has been amazing. It's been amazing for the channel. It's been amazing for bourbon. A lot of great stuff coming out. Super excited for 2023. I hope to see you guys there along with me. And until next time, until next year, see you in the next video.